Satellar Infinity deck or lock deck. Obviously use the SatellarKnight, Cyber Dragon Infinity. Use Nova, Cyber Dragon Nova, summon Infinity on top of that. We also obviously have access to Diamond, and we use a SatellarKnight YUGIOH. They need to give it a better, easier name to pronounce. Anyway, of course we have SatellarKnight Altair. If this card is summoned, you can target one SatellarKnight monster in your graveyard, except a copy of himself, and special summon that into the face of defense positions on your side of the field. But monsters you control cannot attack for the rest of the turn except for SatellarKnight monsters. So a good idea is, you know, if you summon, typically you'll summon Vega, use Vega to summon Altair. Altair will bring something back from the graveyard, like the Neb for example. Then it'd be a good idea to attack with Vega and Altair before you go into an Exceed play. Because unless the Exceed monster is a SatellarKnight, you know what I mean? Like SatellarKnight Diamond or SatellarKnight 20 Meows. He has 500, so 550, so you definitely wouldn't attack with him. You know, you'll be able to attack with them, but typically you'll just attack with what you have on the field and then go into an Exceed play. Your typical Exceed play is what you want to get is you want to get SatellarKnight onto the field, because you want to use his effect. Then we got Nova, then you summon Infinity on top of Nova. Another play is you want to summon Diamond as well. This will take a couple turns because you gotta do one summon, then you later on you do the other summon. Typically you want to go for Infinity first, and then, you know, do a Diamond play, and then use Infinity of course to protect Diamond in case your opponent has a card like Trench or something. Then a typical play you would do is you won't always get this scenario where you will have three monsters on the field, so you won't be able to, like, in the same turn summon something, but he has a great effect where you can activate and summon a monster during opponent's turn. And during the end phase you can attach a SatellarKnight monster from your extra deck as a material. So what you would do is you would just summon two monsters. Let's say your hand's not the best hand in the world. Let's say you have two Berg and some back row. Well, then summon a Berg, right? He'll let you summon the other Berg. You overlay, you make SatellarKnight, then you will set the back row, of course. And your turn during the end phase, you use the effect to add. I recommend, which is what I typically do, is Delta Theros. I equip him as a material, and then during my opponent's turn, during the standby phase, I would detach the materials in order to summon. You can summon Diamond if you want, especially depending on what deck you're going up against. If you're going up against something like Shadal's, you know, or a deck that has dark types or Burning Abyss or something like that, or even Light Sworns, you might want to go into this as a first turn, you know, as a first turn play to help you shut down a lot of your opponent's plays. But you can also go into Pleiades, you know, if you want. But if you know your opponent's not really going to have much of a response, it's not going to be able to do much of anything, you can just summon a Cyber Dragon Nova in attack mode, of course, and then, you know, protect them with your back row, and then on the next following turn, your turn, summon Cyber Dragon Infinity. So that'd be a typical play you would do, especially if you can't summon more than one monster. But of course you have 3 Berg, you have 3 Vega, so you're pretty much going to guarantee, with, you know, to summon 2 monsters in a single turn, relatively, because you have 6 monsters that can help you get an extra monster on the field. And then I already mentioned Altair's effect. We got the Neb. The Neb is your Stratos, basically. Summon it. Add 1 SatellarKnight monster from your deck to your hand, except a copy of itself. You're going to use this effect once per turn. Same goes for Altair. Typically in your hand, it depends what your hand looks like, but if you have a Deneb and if you have a Deneb, what am I thinking? Scenario is, if you have, yeah, that's what it is. If you have an Altair and a Deneb in your hand, you're gonna summon Deneb and get a Vega, because one of two things. Mainly is if your opponent defeats Deneb, that'd be alright, because in the following turn you will summon Vega, which will let you summon Altair. Altair will let you bring back Deneb. Deneb will let you, get an Altair, which is what I typically do. And now you have 3 monsters on the field. So that's the main thing, is you want to try to get these 3 copies, 1 copy of each, so that we can try to use the combo to get 3 onto the field. And then you get a +1 for Deneb, right? If you have Call to Haunted, of course, summoning Deneb, using Deneb to get you anything you need. Let's say you only have Deneb. Summon Deneb, get an Altair, right? It's the first thing you should go for if all you have is a Deneb. And if you have a Call Haunted, set the Call Haunted. When Deneb gets defeated, Call Haunted Deneb, Deneb gets you Vega. So even if your opponent manages to MST the Call Haunted or whatnot, or kills your Deneb by with another monster attack or a card effect or whatnot, wouldn't be a big deal, because you already have the Vega and the Altair. So that way in the following turn you summon Vega, Vega lets you bring Altair, and then Altair brings back Deneb, Deneb gets you another Altair. You get the idea. You just keep going back and forth, back and forth. Unk 1, because he's 1800 mainly, so that's pretty decent attack strength. You can run over a good amount of monsters with that, and then he helps you thin out the deck by letting you dump a monster into your graveyard. Typically you want at least 1 Deneb in the graveyard, because when you use an Altair to bring it back or Call to Haunted, you get your pluses out of it. So that's mainly what Unk is for, is to help you get Deneb to the grave. Diamond Bernberg helps you get an extra monster on the field, obviously. So it can help you set up your XYZ place. Reinforcement for consistency, obviously, so you can get what you need. In case you don't have a Deneb, you can search for a Deneb. Or if you want a Gavin Feinberg, so you can get 3 monsters on the field, or you want to get Vega and go crazy. Galaxy Cyclone, I consider a staple right now for the next year or so, depending on what happens. This is going to be played a lot. I know I'm going to play it a lot. I like it. It's been working good so far, so I definitely have been playing it more than Bait Doll. But Bait Doll still the nuts. But currently right now, Galaxy Cyclone has been working very well. So target a face down spell or trap card, destroy it. Throw in your main phase set the turn in which this card went to the graveyard. You can banish this card to pop 1 face-up card on the field. So it's good for stuff like, Vanity's Emptiness, field spells, pendulum monsters, so forth and so forth. It's even good for getting rid of your own stuff you want to get rid of, especially if you want to get rid of your own Royal Decree, for example, so that way your traps could be live again. It comes in handy in that instance. I use red screen. You might want to be able to get rid of the red screen sooner than later, so that we don't keep losing life, because maybe it served its purpose. It was able to help you stall long enough to make a comeback, and now you want to get rid of it so that way it doesn't end you out, right, under certain situations. MST, generic, good in many scenarios. It's good especially if you summon a Deneb and somebody like Venus chains it, you can MST it. Or what else? Just Vanity's Emptiness. In case you summon an Altair and they chain Vanity's Emptiness, you can MST the Vanity's Emptiness, and so forth and so forth. You get the idea. This is the light attribute deck, obviously. So if they summon light, they activate light imprison. It's nice to have the MST for that. And then of course you got the double cycle. You got the Galaxy Cyclone to help you with that as well. Spell Shine Arrow, Pendulum, summoning is a thing, as well as eventually Crystal Beast will be a thing, right? So you gotta be prepared, right? And this is good because you can chain this to any spell card activation, and it could be a burn card. So it technically is not a dead draw as long as your opponent has some spell cards in their deck. So if they play something like, I don't know, Pot of Duality or something, you could chain this, boom, 500. It becomes a burn card. So the idea is to reduce your points, life points to 0. So it's not really a dead draw per se, unless they only have monsters and traps, or just monsters, or just traps. Then it could be a dead draw, but who cares, right? It's good discard fodder for Wing Blast, right? Anyway, Wing Blast is useful against cards that can't be destroyed by battle card effect. It's good against pendulum monsters. You could use it to prevent your opponent from being able to draw for the next you draw into their resources, their good stuff for the next couple of turns, and it's just good for disrupting plays. You could combo it if your opponent has a really good monster on the field, and then they play, like, I don't know, let's say like Pot of Duality or something, or they play a card that lets them put a card on top of their deck. Then you can Wing Blast, and one of the cards on their side of the field, put that on top of their deck. So that way it will take an extra turn for them to get to that card that they put on top of the deck in the first place. So, for example, if they use Lava Chain and put something on top of their deck, like a monster, you can Wing Blast something on the field on top of that. So it'll take a while for them to get to that monster. So it can give you time to prepare for whatever that monster was going to be. Especially if that monster is a piece of Exodia, you can Wing Blast something on top of your opponent's deck. That way they don't draw the next piece of Exodia the following turn. You have an extra turn to, go for game and avoid losing to Exodia, right? Anyway, continue on. Called Haunted, of course. It's essentially a staple for SatellarKnights because of all the summoning shenanigans you can do with it. The fact that you can use it to bring back Altair can bring back Deneb can let you get something from the deck, like maybe another Altair. All types of good plays. I've called a Haunted Vega before to summon an Altair from my hand, then use the Altair to bring back something from the graveyard, like let's say a Deneb or just any other monster. That way I end up with 3 monsters on the field during my opponent's turn for defense, or just so I can exceed summon the following turn. Especially if you use this during your opponent's end phase, you can get a lot of effects off before it's even your turn, so your deck will be thinner, and then your deck shuffles, of course, so it helps with the consistency of you drawing anything and everything. So that way anything that's on the bottom of your deck won't permanently stay there because you can shuffle your deck, so that helps with consistency. So you gotta love shuffling decks. Then Royal Decree helps you shut down them floodgates, so you don't always have to rely on hopefully drawing your MST or getting Galaxy Cyclone in the graveyard to get rid of that Light in Prison. You could just roll Decree and just say no to that. Shut down Vanity, shut down maybe Anti-Spell Fragrance or like whatever, or Skill Drain or Soulful Info. You get the idea. It's an obvious. A lot of floodgates are traps, so it only makes sense to have a trap that hurts other traps, right? You could use Fairy Wind if you choose to. It's up to you. I like Royal Decree mainly because of the fact that I use Travail, and Travail can bounce it back to my hand, so it makes it reusable. Unlike Fairy Wind, which once you use it, it'll just go to the grave. So Color Haunted, Royal Decree, and Red Screen can be all bounced back to them with Travail, along with anything else that's on the field, so that we can reuse it. And you definitely want to reuse your Color Haunteds, so you can keep the fun going over and over and over again. Then we got Red Screen. Again, for defense, help you get, stall into your combo pieces. Especially if your opponent disrupts one of your plays, you can defend yourself with this long enough to recoup and, get your footings again. Soul Charge makes it obviously way easier to get 3 Stellar monsters onto the field, so you can exceed into Planetary Knight, and then go into Nova and then Infinity, or just go into a Diamond or Pleiades, whatever you want or need at the given time. There are a couple other monsters of options I personally do like. Pleiades, he's very useful, especially in a scenario that, you know, I might need to bounce stuff off the field, so he's very useful. But you can use Artifact Durando, he's pretty good. He's kind of like a pseudo, he's kind of like a pseudo Cyber Dragon Infinity, so you could do that if you want. It's up to you, you know, modify the deck to what better suits you. I have Battleroid, Ultimate, Barboroid, the Ultimate Battle Machine, and Cyber Twin Dragon. Options in case I do summon a Cyber Dragon Nova on my opponent's turn, and he decides to Dark Hole. At least I get something out of it. So there's two options for that. You know, typically you're not gonna really summon these because typically the main goal is to get into Infinity. But if there's the off chance that, you know, Cyber Dragon Nova does get defeated, you get like destroyed or something like by your opponent's card effect, you have these two options. Another thing is you could potentially get to a point of summoning it, because you gotta take into consideration that once you use Nova to make Infinity, eventually you might detach Nova for Infinity's negation effect, and then of course we have Call of Hunters and Soul Charge, so you can always bring back Nova, and if Nova ends up, you know, being destroyed by a card effect, yay! You have two machine type monsters you can choose from. You got 4,000 that can attack two monsters. That's good. You gotta love that. Plus it deals effect damage, and you know it's a 4,000. Can't argue with that. And whatever it kills, it negates its effect, even in the grave. So you won't. Most of your monsters won't get their effects, like the kinds that they replace themselves, like Burning Abyss and whatnot. And then you got Cyber Twin Dragon. You know, 2800 double attacker. It can attack your opponent directly, so that right there could be 5600 points of damage. That could win your duel if your opponent's weak enough. But if you don't want to have both, or just want to choose one or the other, you could always add another Cyber Dragon Infinity. It's up to you, player preference. M7 really useful, mainly once I already used up Constellar Pleiades' effect. You know, I can summon M7 and recycle it. Recycle Pleiades if I want, or I can just use M7's effect to recycle. Typically I do like to use it to recycle Emerald after I use Emerald's effect. Emeralds in the, you know, obviously you use it to recycle your SatellarKnights, but typically you will recycle most of your XYZs, like for example your Delta Theros, after you use them as XYZ material for Planetary Knight. And of course Cyber Dragon Infinity, you'll be using the materials, so once you have them in the grave you can just shuffle them back and then draw a card. And that's another thing, it's a draw engine as well, because you'll get to draw after you recycle stuff. So recycle, draw, recycle. So basically rinse and recycle all your good stuff. 101, because it's good, and it's a pseudo Cyber Dragon Infinity, because of the ability of detaching two materials and taking your opponent's monster and turning it into a material. If it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach a material from it instead. Obviously that's good. The only thing you could take is face-up attack position monsters that were special summoned that your opponent controls. Sky Blaster. Detach them. It's basically your Chidori, right? Detach them two materials, target one face-up card, return it back to the owner's deck, and they shuffle it. And its first effect is you can detach one material and target one monster on the field and put it face down, defense position. But typically we use its secondary effect of detaching two materials instead. Just get rid of something just flat out. Exciton Knight will help you destroy every other card on the field except for himself. Your opponent takes no damage that turn. And you have to control less. Your opponent has to control more cards than you in order for you to activate and resolve this activate this effect. And this is a quick effect. You activate during either player's turn. During your opponent's turns, of course, is only during your opponent's battle phase, but you could do it during this effect during your main phase. I already mentioned Emerald, so you can recycle. Trivial, so you can recycle your Call to Haunted, red screens, roll the crease, you know, and whatnot, or just anything else you might have on the field that you want to recycle. Let's say you want to recycle your Pleiades, put them back in extra there so you can summon again later. Or, yeah, you have a Dragoonity. Well, typically you won't recycle Dragoonity Infinity, because even if he does manage to get destroyed or sent to the graveyard, you just call the Haunt to bring him back and use him all over again. So he takes care of himself on that note. But you might want to reuse your M7, your Emerald, of course. Then we got Delta Theros. He's pretty good to help prevent your opponent from being able to use cards that, you know, react to the fact that your opponent summoned a monster. So you can summon him. You don't have to worry about like bombs or anything like that. You don't have to worry about your other monsters getting dealt with the same scenario of a Bombus or Trench or something like that. Trap Hole, something generic, right? So that makes him very useful. Also, if he is sent from the field to the graveyard, you can special summon a SatellarKnight from your hand or deck. So that's very useful. Typically, you'll summon out an Altair. Now, Altair, you know, you can bring back a Deneb. Deneb will get you whatever else you want to get, or you can just use Altair's effect to bring back Delta Theros. You know, create a nice little defense. Because again, when Delta Theros is defeated, you just bring another Altair from the deck and bring back Delta Theros, and you know, you get the idea. So it's a good floater. SatellarKnight Diamond. During your main phase 2, you can also XYZ summon this card by using a SatellarKnight monster you control as XYZ material except a Constellar Diamond. While this card has XYZ material, neither player can send cards from the deck to the graveyard. Any cards that returns from the graveyard back to their owner's hand is banished instead. During either player's turn, when an opponent's dark monster activates the effect, you can detach material from this card, negate the activation of that card, and if you do, destroy it. So it's a pseudo Cyber Dragon Infinity when it comes to dark types, and then it has two really good continuous effects. That if something would return from the graveyard to your opponent's hand, it would get banished. If he would send cards, he can send cards from his deck to the graveyard. So he can't mill, he can't play foolish, so on and so on. Of course, if you have this on the field, your Unk won't be useful because you won't be able to send anything from your deck to the graveyard. But it doesn't really matter that much, right? By the time you have Diamond on the field, you're the one with the advantage because you have Infinity and Diamond on the field running things, right? I already mentioned Nova. We know Infinity. He gets 200 cards for each material that's attached to him. You can summon him, obviously, by summoning him on top of the Cyber Dragon Nova. You can, once per turn, take an attack position monster on the field, on either side of the field, attach it as XYZ material. Once per turn, during either player's turn, when a card effect is activated, when a card or an effect is activated, that even counts for effects on the field of something that was already on the field, and then the effect activates, you can respond to it, detach a material, negate the activation, and destroy it. And of course, 2 copies of YUGIOH, because you want to bring out a Infinity and a Diamond, or if you try to bring out Planetary Knight and then your opponent warnings or something, it's good to have a second one so you could try it again the following turn, right? Or if you could do it in the same turn, even better. Because if you can get 4 monsters on the field, you know what I mean, you can actually summon 2 of these, because you'll just use 2 materials to make one, 2 to make another, and then you have 2, and then during your end phase you'll be able to apply the effects to equip materials. You can obviously grab a Delta Theros and a Travail, add them as materials, and then now during your opponent's turn you can summon a Diamond and a Pleiades if you want, or a Cyber Dragon Nova, because in the following turn you plan to summon a Cyber Dragon Infinity. So it's up to you what you're doing, what scenario you're in, and that's the end of the deck profile.